Welcome to episode number 31 of the Lowdown Show. I'm Neil Graham. Motorcycle shows are dead, and motorcycle shows are thriving. Both statements have truth to them. Traditional midwinter new product shows that hit the big cities in the US and Canada didn't survive the pandemic. Well, a few survived, but they're on life support. But a new breed of alternative shows are seemingly thriving. There's Born Free in California and Texas, the Hand-Built Show in Texas and California, and the subject of today's conversation, Portland, Oregon's One Motorcycle Show, which as of February will add another show in Las Vegas. They were founded by Thor and Tori George Drake, and they built an empire off the back of a single cup of coffee. But before we dive in, a word from our sponsor. Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY motorcycle fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything. Brake rotors, lights, entire exhaust systems. Whatever you need, and it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Well, shall we take the plunge?
So we talked just before we started. We talked about the traditional motorcycle shows are pretty much dead now. I mean, in America they are gone. You know, they used to go to Chicago and the Javits Center in New York, and there was the big one was in LA, and that disappeared. And then all of a sudden, you know, these others, at least to my awareness, all these other shows, your show, Born Free, other shows of that ilk, started appearing. And I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on the sort of the demise of traditional shows and the, you know, this interest in sort of alternative shows, which yours is, and then in a curious twist, of course, as you know, what happens in our culture is that the alternative then kind of can become the mainstream.
Totally. Well, I was just about to say, like, we're almost battling it now, and I think what happens, you know, with the progression of everything, you know, it gets to a point where you've just been through a lot of experiences, and it's harder to put on a show, knowing what you know, and then also trying to like make it better and more relevant and exciting. And so it's really like you almost have a lifespan of a show. And I would say at this point, like, wouldn't you agree, Tori? We're like fighting that lifespan. Like, how can we extend this thing longer?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, it's only natural that, you know, we're getting older. We're not in our 20s when we started this, but really trying hard to bring in that younger crowd. And, you know, we really pride ourselves on it being a family-friendly show to do that, to really not exclude anybody, but to educate the crowd coming in and up and instigating that interest in two wheels. And, you know, we added cars to our show just to bring more people and interest. Like, what if you don't care about a motorcycle? Cool, but everyone likes cool cars. Yeah, go ahead, Tor. I just wanted.
No. I was saying that is definitely like a component that we address, but we also try to keep it, you know, core motorcycling and fun and exciting. So it's not just about like the next generation. It's about, you know, what we find exciting, or what we, you know, like what other people find. We listen to everybody, you know. It's like we're not just trying to make a show for you know, the young up and coming. It's for the hardcore motorcycle guy. It's for the new motorcycle guy. It's for the chopper guy. It's for the, you know, it's kind of, which is a really tough thing to do. I think that the reason that we've kind of figured out a formula is that we reinvent ourselves almost every single year, which creates a shitload of extra work, which is not sustainable, right? Like that. So there's so many things trying to kill a good motorcycle show. It's like the workload, participation. Let's not forget insurance and lawyers and all that, business side of things, venues. And then, I don't think, and you might have to edit this out, but I don't really think that the American government really likes motorcycles.
Oh, I don't think anyone in authority does ever.
Yeah.
But isn't that the strength of motorcycling?
Yeah, for sure. So that, there's always that, like, trying to, kill it off, right? Like, so there's that component. So we're, it's a real tough market, but that's the interest. That's the most interesting thing about it. And that's what it brings in, interesting people. And, it's sort of this, let
me jump in. So for those who haven't been to your show, and we can't assume that everybody follows this. So Tori, if I go to your motorcycle show this year, just give me a sense of some of the stuff that I'm going to see. How does it differ from going to the Javits Center and seeing the Kawasaki booth and the Ducati booth and the Harley booth? What, for those who've never been to it, just a quick overview.
Quick overview, and kind of my strategy and the strategy that we've developed in the curation of the show is, it doesn't have to be the perfect bike. It doesn't have to be the most amazing build. Every bike has a story behind it, and with that story comes the person and their friends and family, which to me is the most fulfilling side of throwing this show is seeing the camaraderie of each story and builder that they bring to the show, and it creates a feeling with every individual bike, and you can feel it. And it's odd to say in a podcast that no one can feel right now, but you can have everything from a Max Shaft chopper coming and a 78-year-old man that brought in a pristine Honda Dream that just has a story and there's nothing custom about it, but the story is so good that they can be in the same room. And then it's not, like Thor said, it's not just a chopper show. It's not just a bagger show. It's not just a club bike show or a classic show. It's everything in between. And it just creates such a cool energy that you may not get from, like we were talking about, the traditional shows that have been dying off, that is kind of pinholed into one person's taste, right? And so we try really hard to open up our taste buds to all of it. And not everybody gets in, and they might have a great build or a perfect build. But it's just it's hard to explain, but it's just an energy.
Well, from the outside, it seems that, motorcycle shows, traditional motorcycle shows, treated all of us as consumers. But of course, we're not consumers; we're humans. And It seems like your show just sort of wants to, as you say, you want a good story. Now, from the outside, as an outsider, when I look at your show, I think a lot of this is to do with Instagram. Is you look at the Instagram accounts of you guys, and you think, well, they're just having fun and they're making money, and you kind of, even though I should know better, of course I know, as Tor, as you alluded to, that it's a shitload of work to do something like this, and and you've got to get sponsors, and you've got to venues and insurance. You have all the boring stuff to do, no different than the regular motorcycle show, right? And yet you kind of want to have fun doing it, and you're not so how do you, is it a tough balance to keep this exciting and to stay interested while you're running a business? And further to that, I was doing a little reading on you guys. You guys have been involved in and I'll leave the specific language to you, but you were involved in someone who I believe bought an interest in your company, and then there was some wrangling in terms of ownership and solvency of a parent company. Can you give a bit of an overview about what happened there?
Yeah, for sure. well, those are two different things. So
Yeah, two questions. Sorry.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, for me, the interest comes with little gold nuggets, like just trying to make something funny happen that never happened before. So just trying to create a scenario that entertains us is always exciting, and those are like just weird. Like, for one example, we have a friend who owns an oyster farm up in by Seattle, and we invited him to come give oysters or sell oysters at the show, and the only space we could find for him was in an old shower, and so he was shucking oysters, giving people oysters, probably for the first time for a lot of people, oysters in an old sort of communal shower in this industrial space. And like, that to me is just the embodiment of like, why, what makes it fun for us.
It does make the mind wander, something about oysters and showers, but anyway.
It's probably the worst place
maybe that's just
to
my
have
mind.
But it was so
it's
good.
probably the worst place to have it.
It was like a secret too, and people, when they found it, was like that golden nugget that Thor was talking about, and then they'd go down and tell their friends, and then by the end of the show, everyone's trying to find the shower and the guy that's shucking oysters in there.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's just always like trying to create like a scenario that just is funny or entertaining. Also, like building a custom bike. I still enjoy doing that. So I try to, scratch together a little spare time to build custom bikes or paint a helmet, like for the helmet side of things. And Tori and I both did helmets last year for the show. But just try to like see it through all the lenses too, right? Like that helps a show promoter put on a quality event, like, because we're participating as inspired individuals, as well as putting on the show, we get to see it through the different angles. And I think that's just, if you're not into what you're doing, then maybe it's just for money, or maybe it's just because you're complacent or whatever, but that's just not the type of people that we are. So yeah, it's
which kind of leads us into the second part of the question, I guess, which is that you have this notion you want to stay involved. You're not doing this strictly as a you're not selling pipe fittings or something. This is it's a passion project, but then it also intersects with the real world, doesn't it? And finance, and maybe you can lead us into some of the challenges you've had recently.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, that's pretty accurate, right, Tori? It's like
yeah, 100%. I think it really is what we're doing to
and even
financially take care of ourselves, but also like be interested in what we're doing, and with something we've been doing for a long time. So we should keep doing it.
Yeah. And also, like, take one step further. You were working for Rivid last year, and you came in as a sponsor. So you were like addressing another side of things.
Yeah.
And had a little bit less to do with the show last year, but still, like, I think involved in a totally unique way, in two different ways, kind of, as well, as a curator and sponsor. So, but yeah, just that's a testament. But yeah, so talking about how to do business, right? I think an interesting thing that I've heard a lot of people say is, oh, he's a creative type, or he's a business-minded type. And I understand, like, the human nature aspect of trying to, file away different types of personalities in different areas or whatever. But it can lead you down some dangerous paths, right? So I've always thought of myself as a creative type and not really a business type. But diving into that business world recently, realized it's just motivated types. So, I'm motivated by a different agenda than, say, a business type person. And I think that would be a better way to like depict, you know, a business type of this. But what happened, to go into a few of the details, I had some business partners with CC and the One Show, and during COVID, or before COVID, we had these plans of expanding our business, and the idea was to, you know, kind of grow the locations and the offering, and in hopes to like scale up the business. And our motivation was inspired by the fact, like you said, that there's all these coffee and motorcycle shops popping in and all over the world. And we thought, well, you know, if this is something that we're involved in, it should be us that's doing that. And so, you know, hesitantly, you know, I kind of agreed to go down that path, and then, you know, insert COVID, and that embarrassing moment for humankind. And that really had a drastic effect on the trajectory that we had, which you would think like motorcycling is probably more insulated than a lot of other things, but in a way, or whatever, I don't know. It just put us in a little bit of financial spot. Nothing that we couldn't have got out of, but it required a lot of hard work, and I think that, you know, we as business partners weren't completely aligned on what that hard work would mean, and you know, like all the details there. I don't know. Am I being really vague about this? But hopefully not.
Well, maybe you could, and I understand that perhaps some of this is not always everything you want to get into, but maybe you could just give an overview. And I just to, and the reason I asked the question is not to dig into the specifics of your personal business, but just to show that it is a business and you have to run it as one, and you've seemingly, you know, managed to balance, at least from an outsider's perspective, you've balanced this sort of kind of fun frivolity of welcoming everyone, and yet, you know, people have to get paid, including yourself.
Yeah.
So you know, you had additional investors into your company, and one of those investors hit a snag, is my understanding.
Yeah, sort of. So our chief, like the financial guy, basically got us into a situation where we had to make some hard decisions, and his way out was to bring in this investor who was trying to rope in a bunch of companies, Ace Hotel, Sizzle Pie, a bunch of, basically make this package of companies that have, you know, a lot of integrity built companies that are, you know, unique in their position and Northwest based, and put together a package that goes public so that, you know, all the supporters of CC could now invest into that and invest into our growth. And so that was the package that was sold to me. What happened after that was far different. Essentially, I gave the company away for stocks that were worth almost nothing, and then the parent company just slowly sort of deteriorated and stopped performing, leaving like almost nothing left. And so I basically got down, you know, it was really stressful for 2 years. But, you know, being the person that I am, I decided, well, either I try to like go and figure out how to work with this crew that's definitely not doing anything, or I just move on, do my thing that I know I like doing. And so we essentially shut down, or they shut down CC, let me go as, you know, the founder and sort of driving force behind it. And I took over the lease in the flagship location and just changed the name to One Moto Cafe, and have just been trying to rebuild what what should have been CC into a new thing that's still connected to the show and still has a lot of the same components. And it's not ideal, but it's part of the story. And I, my feeling is that CC's just tied up with some legal documentation, and once that's sorted, that it'll come home. The way I kind of think of it is like, we got this 16-year-old little brat that just found some bad rich people and is hanging out with them, and
he thinks he's doing cool.
He'll realize, I think she's all cool, but he'll realize he'll come home and
sheepishly return home. So you're waiting for CC to sheepishly return home and apologize.
Yeah, that's kind of
and
if it doesn't, then that's just the way life goes. But I think seeing growing up snowboarding and skateboarding, this happens a lot, right? You've got these creative individuals that are not willing to participate in the mold and start these things that are influential, and they grow, and then you've got these sharks that are motivated by financial gain, and then they're hanging around, and maybe one of them gets a little too aggressive and jumps in there, but doesn't realize the size of the food that he's trying to consume, and ends up going the opposite direction. And as a creative minded guy, you just don't know about that as much. You just really don't. You think that everybody's got the same intention that you do, which is to like expand and grow and participate. And this wasn't the case. So.
And they have a very seductive pitch. We want you to do exactly what you're doing, and we're just going to help you. And of course, that's not exactly the way the world works. But now you're running your show, and now you were sort of seeking support. I mean, Harley Davidson is a supporter of your show.
Yeah, so Harley Davidson.
And so you've gone from the outsiders, and now you're with the death of, as we talked, the death of conventional shows. Now you're you're no longer outsiders anymore. I mean, is that how you think of it, or how does this?
Yeah, but we also are one of the very only shows that takes in Harley Davidson and Indian right next to each other, right? And so that's where it gets fun for us. Is we're working with corporate sponsors, but only under our own terms. And if you're not aligned with that, then I don't know if this is the right place for investment, right? And I think we're trying to be very honest with that sentiment. When we're talking with sponsors, it's like, hey, we'll provide we'll really focus on what you want to see out of this sponsorship, but trust us when we say shows like this inspire people to destroy motorcycles, learn about them, get more involved, put their money into motorcycling, keep their money in motorcycling. And so we think as an OEM, this is the best place you can spend your marketing dollars, because it's funneling right back into the very community that you're trying to attract.
For our seventh inning stretch, a word from our sponsor. Picture this: you're in the garage, hands covered in grease, your happy place, just finishing tuning up your engine with a part you found on eBay. And then you realize, you know what? I could use a brake upgrade. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Rotors, lights, even entire exhaust systems. It's all there.